Okay, today's lesson is about brightness and exposure compensation while in program mode on our cameras. So, exposure is a degree of light to darkness that we are getting in our cameras and our images. Exposure is also the word we use whenever we take a picture. We've formed an exposure of passing light into the image sensor. And when we're in program mode in our cameras, we can control just whether or not we want a brighter or darker exposure, and our camera is deciding the rest. There are 3 points in the exposure triangle: aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. And they all work together. If we speed up our shutter speed, we're going to have less light coming into our camera, so we may need to raise our ISO or open up our f-stop number. That can get pretty confusing, so sometimes students like to come back to this when they're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, but they know they want to capture something beautiful. So I want you to turn on your cameras and turn your program mode to P for program, okay? When we're on P for program, you can set your ISO depending on your lighting environment, or you can choose to set it to auto, and then you are only making the decision of brighter or darker, okay? In the example that we have on the slideshow, we have a train going across, and there's 5 different exposure values taken of this same train. So at -2 EV, we can see quite a bit of information is lost in the shadowy underside of the train, but we've gained quite a bit of information in the clouds. At -1, we're getting a little bit of that information back in the shadows and the tarmac. At 0, this is what's considered a balanced exposure. We can see some information in the sky and lots of information in the tarmac. And then as we go into the pluses, we lose information in the sky. The highlights are overexposed in the +1 and +2. We then gain a lot more information underneath the train. We can see kind of the wheels. We can see some details in the tarmac, but we've lost that information in the sky. So every time we look through our cameras and press partway down on our shutter button, a light meter reading is taken. So when I look through and I press partway down as I'm focusing on my computer screen, I'm not going to see a light meter reading that's moving because I'm in program mode, okay? And in program mode, we can control this whole light meter to say if I want it to be balanced at 0, if I want it to be over at +1, +2, +3, or if I want it to be under at -1, -2, -3. We can change that by pressing the AV button, okay? AV button right here, and turning our crank dial, okay? So I'm going to turn my crank dial on my camera and hold the AV button, and I'm going to take photos at 5 different exposures. So I'm going to start at -2 and take a photo of my desk looking through. I should see when I look through that my little ticker is under the -2 and take the shot. Okay, I'm going to take it again by holding down the AV button and turning my crank dial, and my ticker should appear under the -1. And I'm going to take it again, same scene, and I'm going to do it 3 more times. So coming back, hold my AV button, go to the 0 with the ticker by using the crank dial, make sure that little ticker's under the 0, take the photo again. Okay, demonstrate a 4th and 5th exposure of the same scene, hold my AV button, turn my crank dial, bring it to +1, take my photo again, and I'll repeat that step a 5th time at +2. Okay, when I look back at my photos, okay, my +2 exposure is quite bright. My histogram shows a lot of flashing, right? To say this picture is overexposed. As I go into +1, I have still some areas overexposed. 0, I don't have any flashing, but it's not a great photo. And -1, okay, a little bit darker in my satchel there and my mouse, and -2. You can also see when you choose these what your settings change to. So my ISO at -2 was 250, at -1 was 640, at 0 was 1000, at +1 was 2000, and at +2 was 5,000. So as I told my camera that I want a brighter photo, it increased the ISO to be more sensitive to light. The other changes that we can notice, I have gotten a fairly steady exposure in terms of my shutter speed. It's kept it at 130 over or 1/40th of a second, and it's kept my aperture at 4 or 3.5 for all of them. So another way to see we can always be more intelligent than our cameras. If you want to repeat this step again, where you control the ISO and see if you can get some better shots with just the shutter speed and aperture changing, you're welcome to try that out, see what changes in your settings. The best scene to shoot for this is an area outside where you have something in shadow and some light source coming in, okay? So you can really take effect. So I've gotten the best results from students who take it in the windows of the stairwell or out behind the library with the trees and the shadows from the library windows. Those are some good spots to go to get an even amount of light and dark